Welcome, listener. You've just stepped into a place where the veil is thin and the stories are truly chilling. Tonight, we're sharing 3 paranormal tales. Mysteries whispered through time, encounters no one can explain, and quiet places where something is always listening. So get cozy, dim the lights, and listen closely, because some stories don't like to be forgotten. Story 1. Graham and the Elevator to Nowhere. Have you ever stepped into an elevator and it felt like something's just off? There are elevators that take you to another floor, and then there are elevators that take you somewhere else. This is the story of Graham. Middle-aged, quiet, moved from England to Canada for work. Liked simple things, clean hotels, room service, quiet halls. But after one trip to Toronto, he stopped using elevators entirely. It was a boutique hotel downtown, small, stylish, a little too quiet, the kind of place where the lights are always a little too dim, and the air smells like lemon polish and something faintly metallic. The front desk attendant didn't even look up, just handed him a key card and mumbled, "You're in 1403, elevator's just there." He didn't ask questions, just smiled, took the card, and headed up to his room for the night. The next morning, coffee in hand, Graham steps into the elevator. He reaches for the lobby button, but his finger grazes another one just below it, one he didn't see the night before. It was black, unlabeled, glossy, pulsing red, no ding, just a slow, silent descent, past the lobby, past the basement, deeper and deeper. The display glitched, then flashed one word: error. The doors opened, and he stepped out. But this wasn't the lobby. It looked like the hotel, but twisted. The walls sagged like they were melting. The air was damp, cold. The wallpaper peeled in long, wet strips. Lights buzzed, then dimmed, then buzzed again. And it was silent. Too silent. He walked to the front desk. It was there, but covered in thick dust. A monitor flickered on and off, showing what looked like live footage of the real lobby. He ran to the elevator. The lobby button was gone. Only the glowing black one remained. He tried the stairs, floor after floor. Each one opened to the same warped version of the hotel. He opened every door he passed. One room had a dinner table, plate set, chairs all facing the corners. Another had old TVs stacked from floor to ceiling. Static. Except one. That one showed him inside the elevator, staring directly into the camera. Then he saw it. A hallway mirror, tall, wide, an antique frame. He stopped, looked into it, but his reflection didn't stop. It kept walking. Then it turned and smiled. He ran back to the elevator, slammed the button. Nothing. The lights at the far end of the hallway began shutting off, one by one, coming closer. He ducked into a room, slammed the door shut, and locked it. Inside, one chair, facing a wall. On it, a folded hotel robe, a name tag pinned to it, Graham. The phone rang. He picked it up. He heard just a whisper. "You belong here now." He slammed the phone down. He bolted toward the elevator. It dinged. The doors opened. The lobby button was back. He didn't hesitate. He stepped in and pressed it. The real lobby looked normal, but no one looked at him. Not the guests, not the staff. It was like he was never there. He left that day, didn't check out, didn't ask questions. He never went back to Toronto. He never rode in an elevator again. And sometimes, in his dreams, he hears a soft ding, and the elevator doors are open, waiting, one button glowing, and a screen that flashes the word, error. So what do you think really happened to Graham? Was it a glitch in reality, a tear in the world as we know it, or something far stranger, something waiting below the surface of places we think are safe? Have you ever experienced something you couldn't explain? A moment that felt off, like the rules of reality slipped for just a second. Tell us your story in the comments. We're always watching and listening, because sometimes the real world has cracks and some people fall through. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story of Graham and the elevator to nowhere, hit like and subscribe. Keep watching for the next tale of paranormal suspense. Our second story of 3. Thomas and the delayed reflection. It didn't start with a scream, or a shadow, or anything that felt unnatural. It started with a flicker, a quiet hotel room, a mirror, and a light that blinked, just once. Thomas Price barely noticed, just a second of static in the air. A pause, like the room held its breath. But when the light returned, his reflection didn't. Not right away. It stood there frozen, still brushing its teeth, even though Thomas's hands had dropped to the sink. That's when the first crack appeared. Not in the glass, in reality. Thomas Price never believed in glitches in the Matrix, not ghosts, not alternate timelines, not any of that. He was the kind of guy who laughed at paranormal shows, rolled his eyes at internet horror stories, and always said, if I didn't see it, it didn't happen. But now he couldn't stop seeing it. It started small. At first, Thomas barely noticed. He'd be brushing his teeth, looking in the bathroom mirror, and something would feel off. Not wrong, just slightly out of sync. Like his reflection blinked a little too slowly, or smiled for a half second too long, small enough to blame on lack of sleep. He told himself it was nothing. One morning, Thomas was shaving when he nicked his jaw, felt the sting, saw the blood, but in the mirror, nothing. His reflection stood there, still, face untouched. Then slowly, as if remembering its job, the mirror version raised a hand and smeared fake blood across its face. But the movements were wrong, too smooth, too slow, like it was trying to mimic him. That was the first time Thomas backed out of the room without turning his back. He told his co-worker that afternoon, more as a joke than anything. Said, "My mirror glitched, gave me a delayed reflection." They laughed, said it was sleep deprivation, said he was finally cracking from too much overtime. Thomas laughed with them, but when he got home, the bathroom light was already on. He always turned it off. That night, he ran a test, set up his phone, camera facing the mirror, recording. He sat on the edge of the tub, staring at himself. 20 silent minutes. Nothing. He checked the footage. Nothing out of place. Until he zoomed in. At the 13-minute mark, for exactly 2 frames, his reflection blinked when he didn't. Just once. Fast. Precise. It was watching him. The next few days were worse. Mirrors in public places, storefronts, elevator doors, darkened windows started acting up, He'd walk past, glance at his reflection, and see it pause just a moment too long, or move a fraction behind. Once, in a convenience store, his reflection grinned when he wasn't smiling. The cashier asked if he was okay. He told her the mirror was lagging. She looked at him like he'd asked where the unicorn food was. He tried replacing the mirror at home. Got a brand new one, sealed in the box. Never touched. Same result. It wasn't the mirror. It was him. Eventually, Thomas stopped looking. He brushed his teeth at the lights off, avoided windows, turned picture frames face down when they caught his reflection. And still, he felt it. That presence watching through the glass, not copying, not reflecting, waiting. One night, fed up, he forced himself to face it, stood in front of the mirror, stared hard, didn't blink, and for a long time, nothing. Then, his reflection lifted its hand, but Thomas hadn't moved. The mirrored version raised one finger to its lips and smiled. Shh. Thomas stumbled back, heart racing. But when he looked again, his reflection was back to normal, mimicking him perfectly. The next day, he tried to talk to someone seriously. He told his friend Darren everything about the delay, the blinking, the smile, the shh. And Darren laughed, just like Thomas would have. Said he was being dramatic. Said maybe he should sleep more. Said it sounded like a TikTok ghost story. Thomas didn't even argue, didn't say a word. He just looked at Darren and thought, this sounds exactly like what I used to say. Now, Thomas keeps his mirrors covered, but sometimes he catches a glimpse in a car window, in a screen reflection, and sees it, that smile, that slight pause, like it knows something he doesn't. He's not sure what's waiting behind the glass, but he's sure of one thing. It isn't him. Have you ever seen something in a mirror that didn't feel quite right? A reflection that moved on its own? One that smiled when you didn't? Tell us your story in the comments, because sometimes the things watching us from the other side aren't just reflections. They're reminders that reality isn't as solid as it seems. If you enjoy eerie tales from the edges of the world, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Keep watching for the next tale of paranormal suspense. And now for our final story, Left at the Crosswalk. Sybil Langston wasn't afraid of anything. She made partner at 32, cut deals over cocktails, and never looked back. She believed patience was weakness, that the world was hers to dominate, not to understand. But on the last Friday in October, Sybil stepped into a moment she couldn't control. It was just after 2 in the afternoon, Commerce Street. Sybil had closed the pitch at the quarter. Her heels echoed as she strode past a crowd waiting at a crosswalk. She barely noticed the man standing next to her. He wore a name tag that said Calvin. You ever feel like the city's trying to tell you something? Calvin had said. She gave him a sideways glance. Cities don't talk. The light changed. Everyone stepped forward, except Sybil. Her heel caught. She cursed and looked down. When she looked up, everyone was gone. No footsteps, no engines, no voices. Sybil turned a full circle. The city was frozen. Buses sat idle mid-intersection. Shop doors hung open, and yet no people. She crossed, heart pounding, called out, "Hello." Only the dry Texas wind responded. She rushed into a corner cafe. Steam still rose from a forgotten cup. Chairs were askew, And there, in the far booth, that same man in the brown suit. "You heard it this time, didn't you?" Calvin had asked. Sybil snapped back, "Where is everyone?" Calvin responded by saying, "Elsewhere, or maybe you are. It's all about tuning in." With a confused look, all Sybil could say was, "What's happening?" He gestured to the window. Outside, the traffic lights flickered, then blinked out. Calvin gave her a knowing look and said, "This isn't punishment. It's perspective." She ran, across the plaza, around the block. Every corner she turned brought her back to that same intersection. Each time, something changed. Signs in reverse, street names unfamiliar, time, warping. Reality was slipping sideways. Back at the cafe, he was waiting, his coffee still warm, still full. "You treat life like a sprint," he said, "but you're missing it." She snapped, "I don't have time to slow down." "No one has time," he replied. "You make it." He lifted his wrist, a watch stuck at 2:03 p.m. "I ignored the little things," he added, "the quiet things. I thought they didn't matter." The walls began to hum, low and distant, like old machinery coming online. A doorway appeared, its edges flickering, unstable. He stood and gestured toward it. "If you want to go back," he said, "you have to listen and wait." She looked through the shifting doorway and heard something. Laughter, a child humming, distant music. She turned and said, "Come with me," but he shook his head. "This is your moment, not mine." She stepped forward into light, then noise, heat, movement, the crosswalk, alive again, the sun high overhead. Someone bumped her shoulder. This time, she smiled. Something had changed. On Monday, she walked to work instead of driving, paused for a musician on the corner, ate lunch in the park for the first time in years. When her young intern stumbled through a presentation, she didn't interrupt. She waited, listened. The glitch hadn't punished her. It had opened a door to breathe, to notice, to feel. Not every glitch in reality is a breakdown. Sometimes it's a whisper, a moment asking you to look again, to be again. Have you ever paused and seen the world shift? A strange stillness, a loop, a message. Share your story in the comments. And if life ever freezes, don't panic. Just listen. Which story gave you the most chills? Let us know in the comments. We love hearing what lingers in your mind after the lights go out. And if you're still hungry for the strange and the supernatural, don't worry. There are more stories on the way. So if you enjoyed tonight's tales, like, share, and subscribe, so you never miss a whisper in the dark. Be sure to follow Clock Strikes 3 for more things paranormal. Stay spooky.